Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 5 2018 NFL predictions. Well, for the Fanatic this week, it was a better week than I've had the last few weeks, especially straight up, and I'm happy about that. I actually have hit my highest straight up win total of the year so far with 9 wins so far this week. Against the spread, a lot of tough bets, especially with some of the games I thought were going to go differently or positively or negatively. So that's still been a bit of a struggle, and I hope that, again, by the end of the year, at this point, to just try to get to 500. But I will continue to do these picks, the against spread picks, because I enjoy doing them, and it's just my luck to see how good or bad of a bettor I can be. But I will tell you guys how my records were last week. So last week, against the spread, right so far, I am 4-8-2 against the spread, which equals 33%. And straight up, like I said just a couple seconds ago earlier in the video, it's been my best week so far straight up. I am 9-5 through 14 games, which equals 64%. And now overall for the year, I am now 22-37-3 against the spread, with 3 pushes, and straight up, I cracked over the 500 mark again for the first time, or I cracked over the 500 mark again. Let me just re-say that. I cracked over the 500 mark with a 31-29-2 record through 62 games, which equals 51.7% straight up. I still have plenty of time to try to move up both percentages. Again, my goal this year now, how bad I've been against the spread, is to try to get to 500 against the spread. And straight up, I still have that goal of getting to 65%. I still think that's doable with all the time left. But if I can hit 60, 62% of how the year's been going, I will take that as well. But I will go straight into my picks as I did last week, and I will try to make the picks go a bit faster. I know I cut about 15 minutes from my last video, so I'm hoping to get around that same time, if not a little bit shorter, this week. And I will talk about the current games and some of the other big highlights of the week through my video. So, here we go. Here are the picks. So this Thursday, when the 1-3 Indianapolis Colts go to the 2-2 New England Patriots, the New England Patriots are 10-point favorites in this game. I like New England here, -10, and New England straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-1 and very surprising AFC South leading Tennessee Titans go to the 1-3 Buffalo Bills, the Tennessee Titans are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I like Tennessee here, -3.5, and Tennessee straight up. And then the next game, when the 3-1 Miami Dolphins go to the 3-1 Cincinnati Bengals, the Cincinnati Bengals are 6-point favorites in this game. I like Cincinnati here straight up, but I'm going to take Miami +6. And then the next game, when the 3-1 Baltimore Ravens go to the 1-2-1 Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Baltimore here, -3, and Baltimore straight up. And then the next game, when the 2-1-1 Green Bay Packers go to the 1-3 Detroit Lions, the Green Bay Packers are 1.5-point favorites in this game. I like Green Bay here, -1.5, and Green Bay straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-1 Jacksonville Jaguars go to the 4-0 or 3-1 Kansas City Chiefs, this game is a pick-em right now. So with that in mind, I am going to take the Kansas City Chiefs against the spread and keep the Kansas City Chiefs straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-1 or 2-2 Denver Broncos go to the 1-3 New York Jets, this is another pick-em game, which surprises me because of how Denver's played. I would think Denver would be a slight to decent favorite. I would think Denver would be favored at around 3 to 6 points, but right now, according to Odd Sharks, this game is a pick'em, so I'm going to take Denver against the spread and Denver straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-3 Atlanta Falcons go to the 1-2-1 Pittsburgh Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Pittsburgh here, -3, and Pittsburgh straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-3 New York Giants go to the 2-1 Carolina Panthers, the New York Giants are 7-point underdogs in this game. I like the New York Giants here, +7, but I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-3 Oakland Raiders go to the 2-2 Los Angeles Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers are 5.5-point favorites in this game. I like the LA Chargers here straight up, but I'm taking Oakland plus 5.5. Then the next game, when the 1-2-1 Minnesota Vikings go to the 500 2-2 Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Philadelphia here -3, and Philadelphia straight up. Then the next game, when the 0-4 Arizona Cardinals go to the 1-3 San Francisco 49ers. The Arizona Cardinals are 4-point underdogs in this game. I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals here +4, and the Arizona Cardinals straight up. Then the next game, when the 4-0 Los Angeles Rams go to the 2-2 Seattle Seahawks. The LA Rams are 7-point favorites in this game. I like the LA Rams here -7, and the LA Rams straight up. And then in the Sunday night game, when the 2-2 Dallas Cowboys go to the 1-3 Houston Texans. The Dallas Cowboys are 3.5-point underdogs in this game. I like Dallas here +3.5, and Dallas straight up. And then in the Monday night game, when the 2-1 Washington Redskins go to the 3-1 New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I like the New Orleans Saints here -6.5, and New Orleans Saints straight up. And before I get into my thoughts for each game, the buys for this week are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Chicago Bears. So anybody out there that has Jameis Winston, Mike Evans, O.J. Howard, even though he has a sprained MCL and be out 2 to 4 weeks. Ronald Jones, the Bears defense, Mitch Trubisky, who set the Bears record for touchdown passes thrown in a game at 6, and he also became the second youngest quarterback to throw 6 touchdown passes in the game, right behind Patrick Mahomes, who just did it 2 weeks ago. So Mitch Trubisky, Tariq Cohen, Jordan Howard, Allen Robinson, Trey Burton, any of the Bears players, the Bears defense, if you have any of those players on your teams, bench them because they will not be playing this week. I know I have to do that with both Jordan Howard and Cohen myself. Alright, so time for my thoughts on each game. The Patriots over Indianapolis. This is one of those games where after what we saw in New England yesterday against the Miami Dolphins, the Patriots played a fundamentally consistent game. Tom Brady had a overall solid game. I know he threw 2 picks, but one of them, that was just a better play by the defender, and the second one was just that was on him. But overall, Tom Brady played pretty well, and for them to put up 38 points, that was pretty impressive, especially with how offensively challenged they've seen over the last few weeks. Tom Brady also tied with Vinny Testaverde when he threw the touchdown to Cordero Patterson. That is the 70th player he's thrown a touchdown to. That's the most any quarterback has thrown to any amount of receivers in NFL history, so congrats to him. Also, I thought that Philip Dorsett had a good game. James White had another big receiving touchdown. And that Patriot team as a whole, they held the Dolphins to about 172 yards total, which is the lowest amount of yards they've had in a game since 2013 for Miami. And it was just a real nice, solid victory for the Patriots to relax a little bit on, to know that they still are in the driver's seat for the division, and that for the rest of the division, it really doesn't matter how they play, and they should be able to take the division by the end of the year of how well they played. And also, with the fact that, New England's playing that well, it's a short week for them. They get to stay home. Most of the time when, the last time, I remember last year when New England had this kind of quick home game, it was last year with Garoppolo, and they beat up the Texans pretty bad. I can kind of see that same scenario happening with Indy. Indy, who overall had a very, up and down game. They were down by the Texans 28-10. They were down by about 17, 18 points at the game. Jadeveon Clowney had his first touchdown with a fumble. Yeah, Jadeveon Clowney had his first touchdown with the big fumble touchdown that was practically the difference in the game. I also want to congratulate Adam Vinatieri for setting the all-time NFL mark for most field goals made at 560, I believe. So congratulations to him. It is an accomplishment that is well deserving of his stature in the NFL world, the kicking world, and just the NFL lore in general, so congrats to him. But I'm taking the Patriots here because I'm going to use the same stat that the Dolphins had, that Andrew Luck also has as well. Ryan Tannehill has never beaten the Patriots at home. Andrew Luck hasn't beaten the Patriots, period. He's 0-5 in his career in these games. And most of the time it's been pretty bad. I remember, you have the AFC Championship game, the Deflategate game, you have the 59-24 game, the divisional round, his first year where they blew him out. The only close game was really the Chuck Pagano game with the weird 4th and 2 call, and they still lost that game. And I know a lot of people are talking about what happened yesterday between Frank Reich making that 4th down call. I disagreed with it, personally, because I'm a person that I would have much rather taken the tie than if you couldn't convert it, having the Texans get the victory in overtime. But I understand the aggressiveness, and maybe that I believe that Frank Reich was looking at the screen or seeing the Titans game, and I just think that honestly he didn't want to be like Vrabel and go, well, hey, look, it worked for Vrabel, it can work for me. I disagreed with it, but I know a lot of people are like, well, yeah, you don't want to go for ties. Yeah, but when you do these things, when you take risks, you can either be the hero or the village idiot. And Mike Vrabel turned out to be the hero, and Frank Reich turned out to be the village idiot. And that's, maybe that's fair, that's unfair, but that's all about execution, and you can just look at how the play was ran. You can look at Angelo throwing the ball, and even though I didn't agree with it, personally, I don't have any ill will or any frustration with people that believe that was the right call to make on that. But to get back to the game, I am taking the Patriots to win this football game because I believe that they're on a bit of a roll. It's a short week. It's in New England. They feel more confident at home, and they need to take that advantage of just playing that way consistently. Josh Gordon did not look bad in the game, so I do want to give him credit for that. Now, I thought, he had a couple of big receptions and also that big block on the Sony Michel run for the touchdown, which was really big for him. And I just think in general, just the Patriots, they've got a little bit of confidence. It's a short week for Indy. Not really sold on Indy's defense. And I feel like the Patriots should be able to do what they've always done with the Colts, just in this kind of advantage. Play good enough defense, get Angelo to cause a couple turnovers, and win the game in a decisive way. So that's why I like New England -10 and New England straight up. The next game, the Titans over the Bills. This is one of those games that it's weird for a lot of people, including me. Shout out to Keith Bailey and shout out to all Titans fans across the country, across the world. Congratulations for being the surprise 3-1 football team that nobody expected. Because I've affectionately called you white toast with butter. You're bland, and you don't really pop or sizzle anyway, and you just win games in weird ways. You won with Blaine Gabbert for 2 weeks in a row, and it's just weird that, Rashard Matthews decides to quit, and then Corey Davis has his first, his best career game. Marcus Mariota has his best career game, probably I think a career high in yards and overall touchdowns. And it's just weird how the Titans have been able to find ways to win games. And I agree with somebody else said, it's not pretty how they do it, but they do it in an effective way. And I want to congratulate the Titans as being a solid, good football team that can be definitely a playoff contender, a division contender, and if they keep winning these games, maybe even a sneaky championship game contender or Super Bowl contender if they continue to play this well or continue to find ways to win. And with that being said, look, the Titans, they're on this roll, and they are playing the second worst team in the National Football League in the Buffalo Bills, who showed yesterday against the Packers that one game against Minnesota was more of a lucky mirage. And the Bills game, and the Packers game, and the Charger game, and the Ravens game was more consistent of how they've been the entire year. Buffalo, Josh Allen had 160 yards, 2 picks. They got shut out by the Packers defense. The first time the Packers got a shutout in 8 years. And look, Kelvin Benjamin got knocked out with concussion. Shady McCoy's playing with injured ribs. And honestly, with how the Titans defense has been playing, of how they've been able to make plays, with the playmakers they have, and Harold Landry, Rashaan Evans, Arakpo, and how with the Titans, how they've been able to make plays with their feet, and Deion Lewis and Henry could have a decent enough running game. I believe the Titans should win this football game. This is the first time I've taken them in 3 weeks. And, I feel confident of saying they should be able to win this game. And if they really want to be proven, as considered, a great team, they should win this game in a decisive way or in a better way than having a field goal game or overtime or having this last-second miracle cause these victories. The Titans are that much better than the Bills from how they played. They should be able to, win by at least 7 to 14 points in this game and not have to go into these clutch, miracle or clutch winning drives or mode. We will see. I think for a lot of Titans or a lot of people like me, it would be a big surprise, or it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be that surprising if somehow the Bills at home, the Titans are feeling a little confident. They're playing a Buffalo team. Now they're the favorite for the first time in about 3 weeks. They lose this game, but I think the Titans, look, they're gritty, they're confident, and they're going to use that confidence to kind of, push the Bills down further the wagon into a 1-4 start. So we'll see that. But this is why I like the Tennessee Titans minus 3.5 and Tennessee Titans straight up. Next game, the Bengals over the Dolphins. The reason why I'm taking Cincinnati is that Cincinnati has played very good football predominantly over the first quarter of the season. They looked good against Baltimore. They played Baltimore pretty well. They played Indianapolis pretty well, and they played Atlanta pretty well. And kudos to Andy Dalton and that big drive to go into Atlanta and get that touchdown pass to A.J. Green to win the football game. That took a lot of guts, and that is something that Andy Dalton does not normally do. And they didn't have Joe Mixon. Tyler Eifert fractured his right ankle. I feel bad for him personally, but this is why I would tell anybody, if anybody asked me about Tyler Eifert, that's why I wouldn't sign Tyler Eifert. Tyler Eifert is an injury-prone bust that continuously gets hurt year after year after year. He's only played 10 games, I think they said, over the last 3 years. That's not nearly good enough to have him as a tight end. Honestly, just for his own sake, just because of his injuries, I hope he gets better, but just, you have a good amount of money, hopefully you saved it. Go and find another job. Go become an analyst. Go do the Notre Dame stuff. I just, I don't, feel that bad. I don't feel that bad for the Bengals professionally because I wouldn't have made this move because I knew Tyler Eifert eventually would get hurt. That's his MO. So I hope he gets better, but, for that instance, you get what you get. But you look at the Bengals, John Ross, is making a lot of great plays. Giovanni Bernard stepped up big with how he's been running, and, in Joe Mixon's absence. And the Bengals, kind of like in that same way, are finding ways to get victories and play consistent football. And they are at home. And they're playing a Miami team that overall got exposed. I remember, I think I've said, or maybe I said in my video, if anybody could check, I said last week the Dolphins really kind of could have just half played the game. And boy, did they go farther than that. They didn't even look like they showed up at all. And that was really sad. Maybe again, the Dolphins can relax. It's like, well, look, we get to play them in Miami. We have a winning record against the Patriots, but that's not a great, piece of game film or whole game as Dolphins fans to enjoy, especially knowing that Julian Edelman, Rex Burkhead, and all the Patriots pretty much were down and out throughout most of the game, most of their key weapons. But I'm taking the Bengals here because I've just been trusting the Bengals' consistency. And if the Patriots can put up, points and move the ball like that on the Dolphins' defense, the Bengals have a good enough offense overall, talented around to do a similar type of thing. They're going to be at home. The last time the Bengals played the Dolphins at home was a pretty decisive win for Cincinnati. I just have the confidence that Cincinnati can play, their style of football, put up enough points. Andy Dalton's really been playing the best football he's had in about 3 years. And I think that's some of that's due to their new quarterback coach, who was the former Packers quarterback coach for Rodgers. I think that is one of the big reasons. But I'm taking the Bengals because I believe, they're more talented. They're a bit healthier. And just, I feel like the Bengals, will continue to roll into this game in a good way. It'll be an interesting game because the reason why I'm taking the Dolphins +6, the Dolphins are not, I don't believe, that bad against, the rest of the league. They may be that bad against the Pats at home, but the Dolphins have shown to you in the last, 3 weeks that they can play, good football. They can be consistent. I don't think they're going to have Kenyon Drake only have 3 yards the entire game. I don't think Frank Gore's, only going to have 21 yards. And they, look, they got a couple more turnovers. Andy Dalton just 2 weeks ago threw 4 picks against Carolina. If they can get a turnover or 2, Ryan Tannehill and this team can definitely go into Cincinnati and make the game competitive against the Bengals. But I think with the Bengals being at home, with the Bengals having more talent, more consistency, and just kind of a better confidence boost, I will take all that in a victory against Miami, in a interesting, fun game with 2 3-1 teams that nobody expected as well. So that's why I like Miami here +6, but Cincinnati straight up. The next game, the Ravens over the Browns. I will say this as a Baltimore Ravens fan. This has been the best team the Ravens have had since 2012. In the second halves of games this year, we have outscored our opponents 49-9. We have almost one of the highest red zone touchdown percentages in the NFL. It got knocked down a little bit with a couple field goals and also the fumble by Collins on the 1-yard line yet last night. But this Ravens team is one of the more consistent teams in the NFL in terms of just playing great defense, solid defense. We're one of the best defenses in pretty much every defensive category, which is impressive. We shut out the Pittsburgh Steelers for the second straight game in the second half, which I was really amazed by. And that was our largest margin of victory at Heinz Field since 2006. So for the Ravens, everything is playing at a good rate. Joe Flacco is having his best year since 2012. It is really going to make, I think, if he can play this way throughout the whole year, it's going to make it more difficult to have to transition to Lamar than Joe. But we'll have to see what happens. But at least Joe Flacco is playing well enough that while he's benefiting for us, he at least is putting out more audition tape for other teams in the league that need a quarterback. Let me see here. Other things. I just look at the Ravens, and we're playing very solid, consistent, fundamental football, and a lot of confidence that I haven't seen since 2012. We're going into Cleveland, where Baker Mayfield, he had, about an average or above average game. I thought that he made a lot of big plays. The touchdown to Landry, the big throw to Callaway. I also thought Nick Chubb, who had 2 multiple 40-plus yard rushing touchdowns, the first time a Browns running back done that since 1965. He became the 3rd running back in NFL history to have 100-plus yards and 2+ touchdowns and 3 or under carries, which I thought was pretty incredible. And I thought the Browns, overall offensively did a pretty solid job. The one key thing that Baker did do, though, however, was commit 4 turnovers, which you can never have that kind of turnover differential, that many turnovers in a game, and expect to win. If I had to grade Baker's overall performance, I'd give him a C-. I thought he did above average for the most part. One of those turnovers, the first turnover wasn't his fault. The couple that when he got hit, holding on to the ball, the fumbles were his fault, and the interception, even though it was bad, I kind of can understand the situation, though I wouldn't have tried to throw that long of a pass with that much time left and the timeout left. But I am taking the Ravens here because I believe that the Ravens, maybe, hopefully we can stay consistent. We've routinely been able to beat the Browns pretty consistently with everything the Browns are going through, which is kind of that mentality Cleveland has. It's more exciting, and I think this game is going to be just as entertaining as Week's 2 game last year when the Browns were up 20-0 and we were able to come back. I feel like that, again, the game is going to be closer than people think because I think Baker is going to provide definitely some challenges to have. But with no Josh Gordon there, with Jimmy Smith coming back, I feel confident that our defense can clamp down on the Browns' offense enough to limit Chubb and to have Baker, have very limited, windows to throw to. We are the highest percentage of team that plays press coverage most of the time, which I think will be huge. And I just think the Ravens, again, if they, are for real through the first quarter, they need to, get off the high of the Steeler victory and keep playing that way into the Cleveland game, and win pretty decisively. I think that should happen, but it's Cleveland, it's a division game, and it's the Ravens, so we could be in for a letdown of a much more competitive game than people think. But I'm taking the Ravens here. Better defense, better talent, more consistent. I think Flacco will have a field day against the Cleveland defense. If Derek Carr can do that with his weapons, Joe Flacco can do a similar type of thing. And Terrence Mitchell, one of their top 2 or 3 corners, is going to be out because he broke his left forearm, and he could be out for the rest of the year. So I think that is a huge plus for us. With the addition of Jimmy Smith back, I think that all equals up to a decent Ravens victory. That'll be over the 3 points. Sounds like Baltimore here, -3, and Baltimore straight up. The next game, the Packers over the Lions. This is one of those games where, the Packers, it was weird. They had their first shutout in 8 years. Aaron Rodgers had a pretty solid game, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and they won by 22 points. If you saw or heard any of the Packers staff or players after the game, they were all upset, which surprises me. But that's just how the Packers are. Maybe that's that's kind of maybe the James Franklin Penn State line. No offense to all Penn State fans. Maybe the Packers think they're a great team, and now they want to try to become an elite team. I just want to say that one more time, just to quote James Franklin. Yeah, Green Bay is a great team, but now they want to try to be an elite team. But maybe that's how they felt. But I thought the Packers did a solid job all around. And also Clay Matthews didn't get flagged, so the Clay Matthews conspiracy can be shut down for at least this week. But I'm taking the Packers here just because the Lions have the Lions have the worst running defense in the league. Matt Breita's gone off on them. Isaiah Crowell and Powell went off for him, and Zeke had about 152 yards and 25 carries himself. And I think with Jonathan Williams, Aaron Jones, how they were making plays against the Bills defense, they can do the same thing against the Lions defense. And I feel like the Packers, I think their secondary should be able to hold up decently against the Lions pass attack. But also, again, it's Matt Stafford at home. Matt Stafford, again, or Stat Padford, is just a guy that, are all his losses, his fault? Is he the main reason why the Lions are losing? No. But he's also not the reason, or not a reason, why the Lions are winning either. The fact that this guy could possibly, he's 61-67, or 61-68 as a starting quarterback at $135 million. And, the fact that the Lions do have a running game, he's been sacked the fewest amount of times, and they still can't win football games. It just blows my mind of why he's still there. I know somebody would take Matt Stafford, but honestly at this point, Matt Stafford is just an overpaid, stat stuffer. That, he puts up a lot of great numbers, and, all people go, oh, well, it's not his fault they don't win. But he just doesn't, they don't win often enough that you're going to look at Stafford and go, wow, you paid $27 million to possibly be at a 1-4 or 1-5 start? How'd that happen? But I'm taking the Packers here. Sorry for the little diatribe. I'm taking the Packers here. I trust the Packers running game to be effective. I think Rodgers will be able to make plays. And I will trust that Rodgers, like he's done a lot of times in Detroit, he'll make the one big play that Matt Stafford will not or cannot do. So that's why I like Green Bay here, -1.5, and Green Bay straight up. The next game, Kansas City over Jacksonville. I'm taking the Chiefs here because I believe in the Chiefs' offense. This is going to be probably Patrick Mahomes' toughest challenge to date in terms of defense because you have the best defense, in my opinion, in the NFL in terms of corners, safeties, front seven, all around. They can pressure with 4. They can leave their corners on islands. And it'll be a very tough matchup for the Chiefs offensively to handle. However, you're playing against, Blake Bortles, whose inconsistencies is going to be the problem here. Blake Bortles, again, nothing against him, but, to go from the 380-plus yard game, a career high in yards, 3 total touchdowns, 1 interception, to just the week before he throws for about 150 yards, and he only puts up 6 points against the Titans. That inconsistency there is the reason why I'm not taking him. Do I think Jacksonville has a chance to win this game? Absolutely. That's why I think the game's a pick 'em. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jacksonville won. They have a running game. They have the run game. They have their defense that can travel on the road into a cold place like Kansas City and play well. But with Leonard Fournette being out again with another hamstring injury, he's becoming, that is Leonard Fournette's MO, and that will be, I think, a hindrance for the rest of his career, and also a problem for him trying to get paid because he cannot show up and cannot be relied upon. Just to be fair and to be honest, right? Leonard Fournette has not finished a whole game for the Jags the entire year. But I am taking the Chiefs here just because Fournette, will not be 100%, and I think them being able to run the football will be the key here. And I think with Blake Bortles, going into that environment with that kind of decent offensive line, I think the Chiefs will put up enough points. They'll put up about 24 to 28 points, and I just don't think Blake Bortles with that offense in that environment with that much pressure on him will be able to respond and play well enough to win this game. Should be a great game, and if Patrick Mahomes does finally turn it over this week or next week or this week, it'll be a huge difference in the game because I feel like with the Chiefs defense not being that great, if they can get a turnover from Mahomes or two, the Jags should be able to win. But with just Jacksonville's inconsistent offensive aspects, not having that much talent around them, I feel like the Chiefs should be able to win this game in a decent way. So that's why I like the Kansas City Chiefs against the spread and the Kansas City Chiefs straight up in a pick 'em. Next game, the Broncos over the Jets. This is one of those games where I've seen Sam Darnold play. I've seen the Jets play. And I had a lot of confidence in the Jets after week 1 after they smoked the Lions. Over the last 3 weeks, the Jets have turned back into the New York Jets. They're not that good. The offense is putrid. They really have no receivers. Darnold's trying to throw, but he gets hit all the time. The offensive line's weak. And, honestly, with Denver hasn't, wowed that many people either. But at least you could look at Denver through their first 3 or 4 games and realize that they're more competitive. They have better quarterbacks. They have better receivers. They have a defense that can get after Darnold. And with Darnold's, decision-making and his turnovers, still being a bit of an issue, I do feel like with Denver, trying to be motivated, and possibly playing with a sense of desperation after dropping the 2-2 possibly tonight, they're going to look at the Jets and, be motivated to play them in a good, consistent, fundamental way. And Keenum gets his 3rd win as the Broncos starter. And the Broncos, hold on while the Jets continue to nosedive. So that's why I like Denver against the spread here in the pick'em, and Denver straight up. The next game, the Steelers over Atlanta. This is a game that if you have any of their offensive players in fantasy, any of them, let them play. Because this is going to be the highest scoring game of the week, and I have total confidence in that. And the biggest reason why I'm taking Pittsburgh to win this game is because they're home. And they have a healthier defense right now than Atlanta does. And I think those are my 2 big reasons. They're home. They have a little bit of healthier defense. And I think Pittsburgh will have the ball last in this game. And if they have any, sense of hope, to try to win, they should be able to make one defensive stop against this Falcons offense to win. And also, I know that Pittsburgh, at home, I will trust that the Steelers will be able to win a shootout in this game against the Falcons, because I just feel like the Steelers, they're more used to these kind of games. Both running backs are still going to be down, or Freeman could be coming back. And I just can't trust the Falcons defense. Just every time you put the Falcons defense out there, I know it's been ravaged by injuries, but most teams are always able to score at the big moment every time. It's nuts. But I'm taking Pittsburgh here just for 2 reasons. They're home, and I believe their defense is a little bit healthier. Would I be surprised if Atlanta won this game? Not at all. Because Atlanta could definitely put up enough points on the Steelers to go, okay, we can outscore you. And Pittsburgh does have the 30th ranked defense. But I'm taking Pittsburgh here. They're home, and they're not as injured defensively. And I think Pittsburgh will be able to make one stop that Atlanta can't. And that's how Pittsburgh will win the game. It's going to be a great offensive game. It's going to be Big 12 country. It is going to be an offensive fireworks display. But I'm going to take Pittsburgh, home team. One more defensive play they're going to make than Atlanta will, and that'll be the difference in the game. So that's why I like Pittsburgh here -3 and Pittsburgh straight up. The next game, Carolina over the Giants. I'm taking Carolina here because I feel like with Carolina, they're in that same category that I've always had them in the last couple years. They're under-talented overachievers. I don't know how the Panthers keep winning football games. Part of it's Cam Newton. Part of it's Christian McCaffrey. A lot of it, I believe, is on the defensive side of the ball with the Luke Kuechly's, the Thomas Davises, the Shaq Thompsons, the Dontari Poes, the James Bradburys, the all these other corner safeties. They brought in Eric Reed, from the free agent Eric Reed. It's mostly because of their defense, but the Panthers keep just finding ways to win games. But yeah, the reason why I'm taking Carolina is the Giants are just bad. The Giants have gone 35 plus games without scoring 30 plus points. They can't really move the ball that well. And that makes sense. They really can't move the ball that well. And that defense is shown, to have flaws in the running game. Alvin Kamara ran for over 120 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, another 50 yards receiving. And with Christian McCaffrey, he can do that same type of thing. You have Curtis Samuel back there. You have Devin Funches. You have a Panthers offense with Cam Newton running at the helm. I do feel like the Panthers offense will be too much for the Giants defense to handle. And honestly, with the Giants offensive line, they moved Eric Flowers out of the rotation. They're starting this other right tackle. The name's escaping me. I think that's going to be a rough time, especially with Thomas Davis. Thomas Davis comes back after next week. Thomas Davis won't play. But with guys like Kuechly, Poe, Reed having his first game, I feel like the Panthers should be able to win this game in a pretty decent way against a Giants team that just been more bad than good. And that's all to say about that one. So that's why I like Carolina here, straight up, but the Giants +7. The next game, the Chargers over Oakland. Congratulations to John Gruden for getting his first win as the head coach of the Oakland Raiders. First time since November 20 of 2008 that John Gruden won a football game. And Derek Carr had his 14th fourth-quarter comeback or game-winning drive, which is the most in the NFL since 2014. And the Raiders had 2 100-yard receivers, a 100-yard runner, and a 400-yard and a 300 or 400-plus yard passer for only the second time in about 66 years. So offensively, Gruden and them are doing their job. Problem with them, the Raiders, is defensively. They have given up way too many plays. They've given up way too many points. And they get blown out in second halves probably more often than not. I think I said the last time they checked it was like 49-10 or 49-14 going into the second half of games this year. But I'm taking the Chargers here because the Chargers are, I'd probably say this, and I am a Charger supporter. I thought that they would win the division. It looks like they're not going to. The LA Chargers are the most overrated 2-2 team in the NFL so far. They are. Because they beat up the Bills and they beat up the Garoppolo-less Niners. And even in that game, the Niners were just, it was a 2-point game. I think the Chargers won 29-27. So that tells you a lot that the Chargers, even without, you could say, well, they didn't have Bosa, they didn't have Verrett, they didn't have Henry. Keenan Allen was playing off an injury. Travis Benjamin was playing off an injury. Yeah, but the Niners were basically Jimmy Garoppolo or bust, and the fact that C.J. Beathard played that well against your defense and made it that competitive is a problem. But I am taking the LA Chargers here because I believe that the Chargers can make those 1 or 2 big turnovers, just like they made last week against the Niners. They can do the same thing against the Raiders in a fun and competitive game. I'm going to take Oakland here +5.5 because I do believe that the Raiders offense will be able to put up a decent amount of points on the Chargers, and it could be one of those shootouts. But I'm going to take the Chargers here to make one more defensive stop than the Raiders will and generate a little more pass rush to cause that mistake than I will the Oakland Raiders trying to do that to the Los Angeles Chargers. So that's why I like Oakland here +5.5, but the LA Chargers straight up. Next game, the Eagles over Minnesota. This is one of those games that the Eagles, they're at home. And I feel like, for a lot of Vikings fans, right, this is one of those games that they circle because they remember what happened last year. 38-7 in the NFC Championship game led by Nick Foles. Here's the key thing about this game. Kirk Cousins has actually done a pretty decent job this year, which I will give him that. But his defense has just kind of let him down. When that defense is giving up over 5, I think they said 50-plus yard touchdowns, which is already one more than they had the whole year before. And if I'm going to look at desperate teams, I'd much rather take the desperate home team, especially in Philadelphia where, Wentz and them routinely play better, especially against the Minnesota Vikings. The last couple times they played them, it's been pretty decisive and pretty lopsided for the quarterbacks they played. But I'm taking Philadelphia -3 just because they are at home. They are at home. They are trying to, improve their defense, which I think will be given a decent test by Kirk Cousins coming into town with the weapons he has. But I'm taking the Eagles here because I'm going to trust the Eagles offense to put up more points against the Vikings than the Vikings defense will and make more yards than the Vikings will against the Eagles. So that's why I like Philadelphia -3 and Philadelphia straight up. The next game, the worst game of the weekend, the Cardinals over the Niners. Honestly, I picked them because they had Rosen. That's it. I thought Josh Rosen, he didn't have that great of a game. But he did okay. If Phil Dawson doesn't miss a 45-yard field goal, the Cardinals probably win. And, yeah, this game, honestly, if you take the Niners, you take the Cardinals, this is what I like to call the crappy toss-up game of the week. I'm just taking the Cardinals because they have Rosen. Because I have more faith in Josh Rosen than I do Beathard. And I just feel like, that should be enough. Both had heartbreaking losses. It should be a really interesting competitive game just how the teams are shaped. But I'm taking the Cardinals here because they have the better quarterback who has, a little more talent. And they have more defensive pieces around them that can make plays where the Niners do not. And with Tark going down with another injury, that's a problem as well. So that's why I like Arizona here +4 and Arizona straight up. Next game, the Rams over Seattle. This was easy. Seattle basically has Bobby Wagner, and that's it. Earl Thomas fractured his left leg and is now out for the year. And with that, the Rams should have a field day against this defense. The Rams will have a field day on the defensive line. The Rams should have a field day in the secondary. Because this Seattle offense has been dreadful to watch for the last few weeks. Russell Wilson, I'm a big fan of his, but he's not playing that well where I would like him to play. And honestly, of how hot the Rams are going into Seattle, the fact that they did this last year, I think that is way too much to ask for the Seattle Seahawks home fan base to try to drown out with their noise. We will see, but the Rams are just way too much talent offensively that they can outshoot Seattle in a game like this if it comes down to that. With what the receivers that Seattle has, I think they are too Seattle secondary is too undermatched for the scene now, especially with no Earl Thomas, because you had Bradley McDougall on Cup or Shaquille Griffin on Brandon Cooks. You got Tyler Higbee, Gerald Everett to worry about. You got Todd Gurley coming out of the backfield. You got Robert Woods. That Rams offense is too complicated and too talented for the Seahawks to try to deal with. So that's like the LA Rams are -7 and the LA Rams straight up. And then finally, the last two games, Dallas over Houston. I am taking the Cowboys because I've been impressed with what they did against Detroit. And honestly, with Houston's defense, I think Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott should be able to combine to get at least 250 to 300 total yards together and win the game in a good way to at least get the Cowboys fans happy to get the 3-2 and be competing for first place in the NFC East. Houston, again, it's weird. Houston got lucky, but also the fact that, like I said, they blew an 18-point deficit. I feel like with the Cowboys, they'll be able to run the ball. They'll be able to make throws on this defense. And I just have more confidence in Dallas right now as a team because they played 4 more consistent, solid games compared to the Houston Texans. So that's why I like Dallas here +3.5 and Dallas straight up. And finally, New Orleans over Washington. New Orleans, for the first time all year, this year, played a brand of New Orleans football that we saw last year. put up a good amount of points, put up between 28 to 35 points, and hold opponents to about under 20 or under, and the Saints should be able to win games. That's exactly what they did last night. It was a very fantastic game. It was a clinical game. It was the best game the Saints have had all year in terms of a total production standpoint. But the weird thing about this game, and I wanted to take Washington plus 6.5 because I'm an Alex Smith fan, and also I just think that the Redskins can give the Saints some trouble. But knowing what can happen on Monday night, knowing that Drew Brees is only 200 plus yards away from breaking the all-time record for yardage, I do think that will motivate that entire Saints team. That'll get them energized, and they should be able to pull out this victory against the Redskins team, who is a decent football team, but is shown to be up and down. And going into that dome on a Monday night stage with that record in sight, I think that's just way too much amped firepower to give the crowd. And I think Alex Smith and the Redskins have a tough Monday evening against New Orleans. So those are my picks, comments, and thoughts for the games this week. Like, comment, rate, subscribe. Good luck to all players, coaches, fellow prognosticators, and fantasy players this week. And good luck, and hopefully everybody wins that watch this channel. And also, please check out the NFL YouTube prognosticators page. There's a lot of great people like Gio Knows, TJ Harmon, Stuart Madison with the Electric Football Show, Edward Lerner, Andrew Warren, Luca Rosano, the Waterboy Report. Let's see, I'm trying to think here. Hatbox, Billy B, Logan Schiff, all those guys and gals that make videos. Please check them out because they have great content just like I do. And you just want different people's opinions about games. Please check them out because they're great too. Also, Halfman's Picks. So that's it. So, like, comment, rate, subscribe. Until next week, this is Matthew from Fanatic signing off. Until then, so long.